Welcome back. Now, going back to our top story, it's reported that a group of 15 meter taxi drivers attacked and petrol bombed the Uber vehicles that were parked outside the Sandton Convention Centre, where the Johannesburg Art Festival is being held. 2 Uber vehicles and a maxi-taxi have been set alight near the Gautrain station. For more on this, we are now joined on the line by our reporter Manqoba Mchunu, who is on the scene. Manqoba, thank you so much for joining us this evening. What's the latest in Sandton at the moment?
Well, indeed, the situation has come down relatively in the last few minutes compared to the scenes that we saw here a few hours ago, where about 2 cars were set alight and they went up in flames as this war between the meter taxis as well as Ubers intensified. We do recall that this has been ongoing for the past few months. We saw Uber drivers being attacked and their vehicles also being broken into as well as set alight. So one can almost say that according to the witness statements that we're getting on the scene is that this seems to be a continuation of that particular spat between the 2 rival groups. And what we are getting and what we know so far from the police is that there was one Uber car that was set alight, as well as a Taxify meter taxi that was set alight, as well as another meter taxi. So what witnesses say, and one of the drivers, in fact, whose car was torched, is saying that a group of about more than 10 men came to where they were parking, and after that they started pouring petrol on one of the vehicles that was parked, an Uber vehicle. And then when the driver went out, he just heard screams, and he says that after he heard screams, he then looked around and saw this group of men also approaching his car. And then when they came to him, they also tried to pour petrol on him, and then that's why they managed to run away. So he says that they did manage, however, to pour petrol on those vehicles and set them alight. So at this stage, what we do understand is that 3 cars have been torched, but police are here trying to get statements to ascertain exactly what happened in a few hours ago when this particular incident occurred.
Manqoba, you've just mentioned now that 3 vehicles were set alight. We even saw it in the visuals as well. Let's look at injuries. Were there any injuries reported in this incident?
Tabile, I'm battling to hear you because of a bad line, but if you can just repeat that question.
Oh, I was asking if there were any injuries that were reported in this incident.
Well, Tabile, so far we haven't ascertained that, but these 2 meter taxi drivers that I'm speaking about, I've just spoken to one of them now. He says that he is not injured, and he says that his colleague, the other one who drives an Uber, was poured with petrol, but he said that he managed to escape. So at this point, we haven't heard of any injuries so far, but I can tell you that the damage is extensive to those vehicles which have been torched, and the police are still here on the scene as well, trying to check up and try to avoid another possible clash that might take place, because, you know, this place here in Sandton is really a place where you find a lot of meter taxis as well as Uber drivers. So the police are here on the scene right now trying to get more details about what happened, but at this stage they have not confirmed as well any injuries to any of the drivers, but definitely the damage has been done to those vehicles that were set alight.
Manqoba, just finally, I mean, you mentioned earlier on that you spoke to police and the drivers are also still around you. Have you been able to speak to any of the meter drivers or maybe even the Uber drivers just around the conflict we've seen in the last couple of months between these 2?
Well, certainly, Tabile. I mean, having followed this particular issue, I mean, for the longest time, I've been able to speak to the Uber drivers as well as the meter taxi associations about this ongoing turf war between them. And certainly, the sentiment that comes from the meter taxi drivers is that they feel that the Uber drivers are threatening their livelihood. They're saying that the Uber drivers do not have permits to operate and they do not have ranks in which to operate, and therefore they are accusing them of, doing their business at their ranks. They're saying that they come to their ranks. They come, for example, that one of the big ranks here at Sandton is the Gautrain station here, where you find many meter taxis on an average day just parking outside waiting for clients. So what the meter taxi guys are saying is that these Uber drivers come and drop and they pick up at their spots without even consulting them, without having a permit to even operate. They're saying that Uber is illegal and therefore government should actually not allow it to operate. So they're saying that they are not going to fight with Uber or they are not attacking Ubers, but of course they're saying that if Ubers come to their ranks, that's when then they are forced to then act because they are stealing their livelihoods. And also I also spoke to some of the Uber drivers in the past few weeks as well. They have said to us that, it's become hard to operate in Johannesburg. It's become hard. There are various hotspots where they are attacked. Their cars are burnt. And we saw even last month, we spoke to a driver who was recently attacked with acid. But, of course, police not linking that particular attack to the meter taxi as well as the Uber turf that's currently taking place. But certainly drivers are saying that they are in fear, they live in fear. There are certain areas where they cannot operate because they are constantly being attacked. We've seen various videos being posted on social media as well of, the escalation of violence between the two groups. So really this is a really tense issue between these two parties. And we also saw, just a couple of few months, the Minister of Transport trying to put these two parties together, trying to make them agree to a ceasefire. But of course, that seems to have not, materialized as we saw these incidents continuing in weeks that followed that.
Manqoba, just finally, we know that vicinity around the Sandton Convention Centre where the art fair is taking place, as well as the Gautrain station, was earlier blocked off and marked as a no-go zone, rather. Now, is that still the case? Have police still cordoned off that area, or can cars move within that vicinity?
Well, for now, I can say that the street next to the Gautrain station remains closed as police are still investigating. They're on the scene. They are forensic experts here on the scene trying to do their work here. But of course, I can say that indeed, Sandton is one of the hotspots. It's a well-known hotspot, the Gautrain, and we've received many incidents of, reports of incidents here, and drivers being attacked and vehicles being broken into. So certainly it's one of the hotspots that police are closely watching. But of course, police had promised before, saying that they are going to maintain a presence in these areas. But of course, as the violence seemingly subsided, then police also took away their members. So at this stage, it does remain a tense, one of the tense hotspots here, as well as the park station. And I know another place is the area in Hillbrow near the Summit Club, as well as other areas which include Pretoria. So those are mainly the hotspots that have been known to have violence. But of course, it has seemed that it has subsided until this recent incident where 3 cars have now been confirmed to have been torched.
Manqoba, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for that update. We'll definitely be following the story closely. That was our reporter, Manqoba Mchunu, joining us live from Sandton, where we've seen those clashes between Uber drivers as well as meter taxi drivers. 3 cars set alight earlier this evening. I'll have more news for you after the break. Stay with us.